Hey, I'm Kristin Shaw. I'm in California today with the 2024 Toyota Tacoma. It's an all-new Tacoma. I'm very excited about it. And I want to introduce you to the mastermind behind the engineering. This is Sheldon Brown.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
He's in charge of all the mechanical stuff behind the Tacoma, which is the important part. I mean, it looks good.
Thank you.
But it also has to act right.
Form
right?
must meet function.
That's right. And we know the Tacoma is a truck that lasts forever.
It does.
And we expect this next generation to do the same.
Yep.
What I'm really interested in talking about are some of the improvements that you made that you're excited about. I know you're an enthusiast, and that's one of the reasons that we have a manual.
It is. Yes, absolutely.
So start with that. Tell me why is it important to have a manual option?
Well, you know, you talked a little bit about Tacoma. We know that we have a really, I'll say, enthusiastic, basically customer base. Folks who bought it, it's oftentimes not their first, second, maybe sometimes their third Tacoma. And the manual transmission is something that we wanted to bring back for those driving enthusiasts. They like to go off-road. They like to have the challenge of that third pedal, right? It gives you that sort of third dimension. And besides, you know, we give you, an extra pedal, 50% more pedals for free. So why wouldn't you want to take a manual transmission?
It's a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. But it really is for that person that really wants to be more engaged with the vehicle, enjoys the drive experience. And we felt like, well, it was a relatively low percent, about 11% take rate. Still something that we really wanted to bring to the market. And we know for those people who love them, they stand by them. So.
Is the manual available in all 8 trims?
No, it is not, unfortunately, but we do match it with our iForce motor. So we do have it in the SR grade. That's based on like a more entry level, it's cost focused, so it's value focused customer. But then we bring it up to the enthusiast in the TRD Sport, in the TRD Off-Road package. And what we do then is we pair that with a larger differential. And so what that allows us to do, especially in first gear, is to deliver all of that torque. And so for those folks, we wanted to make sure that we gave them something in a package where they could enjoy it, whether that's on road or off-road. And then one of the nice cool things we wanted to take it to the next level was we added IMT2. That's Intelligent Manual Transmission 2. It's the second variation or second version of it.
More acronyms.
That's right, exactly. You need to know all the acronyms. But why is that important? It's kind of nice. It's standard, it's off. You can press the button, turn it on, and it does some really neat things. It's got an anti-stall feature. It also has the ability to rev match for both upshift and downshift. So when we use that, let's say you had a good day on the trail, but you're driving home, you want to relax a little bit, turn on the IMT2. Maybe you're in traffic, you want to have a little bit easier go. It sort of helps you out. So it's kind of a nice thing there if you don't necessarily want to drive that MT all the time, but for most of the time when you really want to get after it and have fun, turn it off and go row your own gears.
So I'm an off-road competitor. You are an off-road enthusiast.
Sure.
Tell me about some of the improvements like the stabilizer disconnect.
Yeah, sure. That's one of the great ones. Yeah, Tacoma's, I'll say our DNA, if you will. Most people think of that truck as off-road. Most of our customers, they identify as active outdoor adventurers. 42% of our customers will tell you that they take their vehicle off-road at least once a month. That's important for us then. We understand the priority that they have, and we want to make sure when they take that vehicle off-road, they have all the tools that they need to tackle the trail. So on the next generation, we wanted to make sure that we advanced it. And not just the Pro, not just the all-new Trail Hunter, which we've been standing here next to, but also on our core TRD models, because that's where most of our customer base purchases. And so we wanted to take it to the next level. One of those features you talked about was the stabilizer disconnect mechanism. So a lot of times for off-roaders, you go build your truck, and you're going to have to make a decision. Do I want the performance at the high speed on road I'm getting out to the trail? I'd like to have that stabilizer bar. But when I'm off-road, usually our suspension travel is limited, especially with IFS in the front, by how much we can basically allow that suspension to travel, and we have that torsional bar on the front, right? So the way to get the best of both worlds is we can disconnect that. So we spent a lot of time and energy trying to make sure that we could disconnect at speed when we're fully bound. And what this really allows us to do is gain an additional 4 inches of travel. And then if you think about it from an RTI or a ramp travel index, we get about an additional 3 inches of ramp travel, which really just allows that wheel to articulate. So you're really able to not only get the suspension travel in the front, but also utilize the full suspension travel in the rear.
Well, give me an example of a scenario where you're really going to see the benefit of that. Rock crawling?
Great. Well, you could see it in rock crawling for sure, right? The real idea here, the best way, of course, to get out of any situation off-road is to make sure that you have maximum tire contact patch, right? All 4 tires on terra firma, that's a good thing. Then we're getting traction, and we're getting the ability to steer, control, brake, whatever it is that we're trying to do. So you said rock crawling, that's a great one. If you're in a situation where one tire is up, one tire is down, we'll often see, unless we lock, right? When one tire lifts off the ground, what happens? The other tire doesn't spin. So we want to make sure that we get that traction on both. The other area you'll see it is through ruts. Right? So as we're kind of going through areas where the ground is doing this, we're allowing that suspension to articulate, and we're really stabilizing our body roll. It's really nice, especially if you're in an off-camber situation and you don't like that tippy feel. It can help you out there as well.
I do like that tippy feel.
And it's kind of fun.
I like the way you're using your hands to kind of show the articulation. That really gives you a mental image
Former
of it,
puppet
right?
master. Yeah.
Tell me about some of the other improvements that you've made that Tacoma customers have wanted and now can have, especially on the off-road side.
Sure. Well, there's quite a few, honestly. I know there was, starting from the overall performance, one of the really important things we did is we wanted to take it to the next level in terms of the suspension that we do offer, and especially in the off-road where we offer our monotube Bilstein with the piggyback reservoir. And you probably just heard me say that's a piggyback reservoir on a core entry, I'll say, or on our core TRD model. We used to say that or reserve that for vehicles like maybe our Pro, but we really wanted to take this to the next level. It also features a really cool thing, end stop control, which we can talk about a little bit later. We can actually show you a cutaway and exactly how that works, but effectively giving you like an additional damping right before you get into the bump stop on the truck. So these are things that really help us have really manageable ride on road, but then when we get off road, we have that additional damping to really give good isolation.
And you said something earlier about noise control inside the cabin. I definitely noticed it with the Limited.
Sure.
But people will also notice it in the TRD off-road?
You will. So we took a couple of different approaches to how we wanted to differentiate the grades. So in our performance vehicles, specifically in the manual, we're going to have a little bit more, allow a little bit more of the engine noise because we want to have that sort of visceral connection between driver and what's happening. You know, you're almost shifting, maybe not necessarily just by the tach, but kind of what is your sensors telling you? What are you hearing? How is the engine responding? So we've allowed that to have a little bit more in-cabin, I'll say, exposure to what's going on within the rest of the powertrain. However, across the grade, for example, like the SR and the Limited, we're using technologies like active noise cancellation to help reduce the overall vibration and NVH performance of the truck. But then we're also using enhanced sound control. And the ESE, or Electronic Sound Enhancement, is the right acronym. We use that basically to supplement what we're hearing through the exhaust system. So for TRD, what we've done is we use specialized software that is paired with the exhaust type that you have. So you could have the standard OE exhaust, or you might choose for our performance air intake, which is an option, and our performance exhaust, which is an option. So we then pair the ANC ESC software to make sure that you have a complementary package and that you have a very good experience inside the cabin to make it not only sound good, but also to cancel any of those noises and vibrations that otherwise might make their way in.
You also mentioned a bar that's new on the front end of the off-road version. Yeah.
So actually, on our previous generation in our off-road, we also use the front. We call it our zero cross, or our front cross member. We don't have that necessarily on our entry grade vehicles or SR5, but when you get into the off-road, or you get into the Trail Hunter, or you get into the Pro, we want to have additional, not only rigidity of that front portion of the frame, we use that to connect our skid plates. And we also use that to protect our cooling system. So right underneath that, if you're dropping hard on a rock or something like that, you know, sometimes we make a mistake in the line that we take. We don't want to penalize you and get up there and bust up the radiator, leave you stranded. So that's additional protection, additional strength. Always we put that in anything that's off-road.
How about skid plates?
Lots of those. So
lots of skid plates.
We have all kinds of different skid plates, lots of different packages. When we thought about, again, the grade differentiation, we went from Pro, where we were focusing on lightweight, a little bit less protection, Trail Hunter, heavily laden vehicle, we've got a lot of protection there. And then our off-road is sort of a blend of those. The great part is, regardless of what you buy from the factory, all of these parts can fit on all of these other trucks. So our TRD package will have a front skid. We're actually using a new technology for that, and we actually call that this X-ply. It's effectively cross fibers, or fibers that are laid across each other. Then they're utilizing basically a very high strength composite. What that really does for us is gives us a lot of flexibility, and it has a lot of, I'll say, when you have that kinetic energy, it has a lot of spring back. So you get great performance in terms of damageability. It doesn't gouge as bad, it doesn't dent, but when you hit that obstacle, it has all that energy and it sort of pushes back and helps you kind of hop up over. That's what we start with. It's lightweight. It's really effective. We put that on our off-road package. We also add a tank protector on the off-road package. And then when you start to move up, you can get things that are actually, we have like a differential cover. We have an intermediate skid plate that we put that takes care of the transfer case. And then we, of course, we have both a high strength steel as well as an aluminum front skid. The aluminum we're using for a little bit lightweight over on Pro. Here we're using it for a little bit thinner, but very, very strong on Trail Hunter. So a lot of different options in the world of protection. And we don't even stop there because we also have rock rails. You can see them right here. And these are good for half GVW. They don't come standard on our TRD ORP package, but you can certainly option for them.
You can add them, yeah.
All of the attachments are right there for you. Same thing, we've got rocker protectors. They're a little bit lightweight. They're not really meant to slide on rocks, but to make sure when you're running down the trail, if you throw something up, it doesn't hit the side of your truck. Again, we have the body attachments ready to go. So the world's your oyster. You get to pick what you choose.
Yeah, and price, there's more than 100 accessories available.
That's right.
Factory installed.
That's right.
Right, and guaranteed by Toyota, so you can roll them into your payment if you want.
Sure can.
And then if I wanted a roof tent or something like that,
That's right.
You have partners that can do that.
That's right. We call that our AAP, or Associate Accessory Products. And these are products and I'll say different manufacturers who we partnered with to provide some of those other components that you want to deck out your truck. And the great part, like you said, is you can roll it right into your payment. You can pick them up right from our dealership. And we've already done a lot of the vetting to make sure that they fit well to our vehicles.
You know what I love about Sheldon is that he knows this stuff cold. Like, he doesn't have to look at the script. And we did the walk around, he's like, he knew the whole thing. So what kept you up at night? Like, what were you really thinking, okay, I really want this part to work, or did you have to push something through?
It's always a tough question because there's a lot of things that go into it, and you have to make a lot of decisions. And one of the the difficult parts is you start off with a concept, and the concept is really our chance to dream. It's when we put everything in the truck, and then we have the reality of cost and mass and some of the things where we got to dial it back in a little bit. So you're always wanting to make sure that we're really focused on what it is that the customer is asking for, and we're always trying to balance making sure that whatever we provide, there's an element of value to the customer. Some things we have to do in order to sell the truck, right? We have to be emissions compliant, or we have to be have a good CAFE rating, but those aren't things necessarily that the customer 100% values, right? So it's our job to make sure that when we're thinking about how to develop this truck, every time, if we're going to take mass out of the truck, to help us with our overall performance, sure, there's a benefit for the customer because we're keeping the truck light, better fuel efficiency, etc. But we want to put it in an area where the customer realizes it. So that's, for example, like if we decided with our multi-material cabin design, we're going to use aluminum in a tailgate. Why? Because you know what, the customer, it's easier to move, it's easier to operate. Still keeps all the great strength performance that we have in our steel tailgate, but we can do it lighter and we get some value to the customer. So those are the areas that I really wanted to make sure that we got right. And then when we did our total development, we were sort of stretching ourselves, right? We wanted to stay out in front in terms of both performance and the offerings that we had. And we knew this was going to be a really competitive segment. So we wanted to make sure when we started doing things like rock rails and we started adding additional features, we wanted to make sure that we were always authentic and we were always credible so that we always have a good reason to provide that. If I can't provide any benefit, you can go to the aftermarket and pick that up. We need to be able to provide integration or some sort of value. And that's where we look, for example, at the rear steel bumper. A perfect example where we can integrate all of our electronics, like our blind spot monitor, like our rear sonar detection. These are very difficult things when you go buy aftermarket and you try to use the same hardware. We can account for that. We can think about that when we do the overall development of those systems and make sure that they're compatible. So those are areas where we really focused on in this next generation truck.
One thing I think is really interesting, and this one has it as well, is the automatic tailgate opener.
Yeah.
You can actually hit it with your knee, right, or your elbow, or
that's right.
or whatever.
So we have switches. Wow, you can open it a bunch of different ways. We got a switch on the inside and in the instrument panel. We of course can press the handle, the good old-fashioned way of opening a tailgate. We do have the bump, or we call them the elbow switches. They're on both the left and the right side lamp. But as you mentioned, if it's already down, your hands are full, just give it a little nudge, and it starts the auto closer and closes it right
Yeah,
up.
it's funny because when I got to see it in Hawaii, I posted a video about it, and so many people were commenting about how silly it was, or how like it was extra part that's going to break or whatever.
Sure.
And I thought, well, it's not for everybody.
Sure.
I mean, if you want a manual opening tailgate, you can have it, right?
You can do it, absolutely.
But if you carry something a lot, or if you're a parent, you're carrying a kid, you need to put something in the back.
Makes it super convenient.
Yeah.
And you know what? Again, we have it standard on a couple of our higher trims, like in our Limited, for example. But it's optional in other grades. So if you don't find value in it, it's okay. We made it so that it comes off, just like our other tailgate. So if you are carrying something long and you want to hang out, you don't want the tailgate on for any reason, you don't have it. But it does provide a lot of convenience. And if it's not for everybody, but for those who wish to have it, we're using a lot of the same technologies that we use in our power back doors. We've been putting those on SUVs for years and years and years.
Right.
Taking the same know-how, the same application. Modifying that to adjust for the differences of application and use, right? A vertical lift versus, the tailgate style lift. But using a lot of that know-how to make sure that we have the durability and the duty cycles accounted for. We've added things that, I don't know that are in market right now, like pinch protection. So if you do happen to get something stuck in there, it's got the same kind of pinch protection that we use on our back doors. And that makes sure that it reverses it or stops it. We've got a clutch in there in case you got a heavy bunch of lumber on that or something and you forget and you accidentally actuate the tailgate. No problem, the clutch will let it clutch down so you don't break any of the motors. Again, really trying to think about how the customer might use it, how it could get abused, and making sure that we're protecting. So a lot of thought went into this. But I'll tell you, the other day, and there's some other areas. For example, I was at a tailgate, and we had a couple of people had set their beverages on there, and maybe a little bit of a spread. I wanted to make sure that nobody accidentally bumped that tailgate and automatically, started it closing. You can turn it off in the MID so that the function is disabled, right? And that way, when you're out there, you're having a good time, you don't dump your drink.
Right. All your cheese and crackers go flying.
Exactly, right. So we've tried to think about all the different ways people might use it. And then, of course, I was driving down the road the other day and realized, oh my gosh, I left my tailgate open. No problem, just press the button. And I hit my view button on my 14-inch display, and I watched the tailgate come close as I was driving down the road. So a lot of functionality, a lot of convenience.
I like it.
I like it too.
So that's one more thing. I want to get nerdy about your Bilstein shocks.
Sure. Yeah, let's go do it.
Let's go check it out.
All right. Have a good. All right.
Okay, Sheldon, let's talk about these Bilstein shocks. So this looks like an injection. Tell me all about this system.
Yeah, no problem. So one of the technologies that we put, and that is standard on our TRD off-road grade, is the all-new 2-inch. It's a Bilstein monotube shock with piggyback reservoirs, right? So pretty unusual to see that in I'll say the core grade of vehicles, but we wanted to make sure that we had incredible off-road performance. And so what this of course does is this is a cutaway of the shock that you can see here. And yes, we have all of the oil that would normally be in this reservoir removed for the purpose of demonstration. But you can see this features our end stop control. And so historically we have our different valve coating here that allows the oil to move through and provide you really good performance and what we'll call linear performance for that on-road comfort and isolation. But as we get to either a topping or a bottoming event, we then are able to use these springs to set a secondary set of valving that gets picked up, and then we could go from a linear to a more divergent, effectively more compression or more absorption depending on the bottoming or topping condition. And this really then, for those high energy events, stops you or slows you down before you get into the vehicle bump stops. And so by doing this, we can really give a really great on-road performance and feel, and still have the capacity when we're off-road and with those high energy events to give a lot of good damping.
Tell me about the piggyback part. What makes that unusual or unique in this case?
Yeah, well, it's really about how much oil that we can put in the reservoir and then how we can continue to maintain the cooling, right? So as we're moving, we have these long stroke shocks, we're working this fluid. This fluid is getting warm, the viscosity is getting lower, we're actually getting shock fade. The more basically oil that we can put in here and the more surface area that we can use to help cool that, helps to maintain that good performance in those off-road environments. So you got to think about this. We're running down a washboard road and these things are working hard, right? So we want to make sure that they got the surface area to cool them and they got enough capacity in the oil. And we use that reservoir to help out.
And you said this is standard on which trims?
This is on our TRD off-road package.
Okay. I mean, this is high quality stuff, right?
This is really, I think we've really taken the equipment to a next level on that grade of truck. Of course, you start to see piggybacks and things of that nature when you get into what we would call our Halo or our TRD Pros, etc. But this, certainly for Toyota, and I'm not aware of other competitors, but it could be out there, where we're really starting to bring this type of technology all the way down to our core TRD grades.
That's awesome. For an even better off-road ride.
You got it. Off-road and on-road.
And on-road.
That's right.
Thanks, Sheldon.
You betcha.